Yo, welcome to Sig Slayers, the comic interview show, period. I'm Mike the Sig Slayer, chilling with Mark the Honorable Venom. What up, fam?
What's up, Mike? We got another great creator today. This man kills it on the page. That's why he's fit for the name Ledkilla. Let him know who we got, man.
That's right. We have the Ledkilla himself, Ken Lashley, joining us. But before we chat with Ken, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please comment. All right. Our next guest has worked on almost every comic publisher you can think of. My man has covers and pages all over the place. X-Men, Batman, Predator, Venom, Red Sonja, you name it, the Ledkilla has done it or is about to do it. Ladies and gentlemen of the Stash Land, we bring to you the one and only Ledkilla, Ken Lashley. What's up, Ken?
Well, that's a great intro. Everywhere I walk, you got to come with me, man. That's pretty good. I like that.
Nice. Hey, man, I'm trying to be the next Flavor Flav, baby.
I met Flavor Flav one time. I went to a basketball game and he was outside. We just happened to bump into each other. Like, that's Flavor Flav, right? He's a tiny dude.
I was about to say, is he little?
He may be smaller than I anticipated him to be, but he's so charismatic. It was pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, Ken, this is your first time on this channel, but you're no stranger to Sig Slayers, so we're gonna pick up where we left off.
Okay.
I don't think I asked you this question before, Ken. How did you start working with Marvel? Our research shows us back 1993. Is that the beginning?
1993 was my first job at Marvel. I was I submitted my portfolio. A good friend of mine named Mark Asquith. Well, he wasn't a good friend of mine at the time. He was a producer of a television show called Prisoners of Gravity, and that was a show in Toronto that they went to. They did interviews, and it was a really interesting show because it wasn't just about comic books. It was sort of like, how do you make comic books, interviewing some really interesting people. I remember watching that show, him doing a 40-minute interview with Jack Kirby. It was pretty crazy, because these people are just imaginary people, they're like the heroes in there, like you don't know them as real people. So to watch that show all the time, and then he was a producer of it, and he was going to New York City, and he said, I would love to take your work to New York and show it around. I didn't even know who he was. I was like, oh, okay, there's a guy who wants to help you get in the comic book business. So I said, sure. So I gave him my work, and I did some drawings. He took it, and I got hired to do 2 jobs on the first day. So it was pretty interesting. That was the 90s. I mean, it was easier than it is now. But so I ended up getting a book called Excalibur and another book called Night Thrasher. Those are the first 2 books, and then I did them both. So Night Thrasher technically came out first, but Night Thrasher was the second job and off I went.
Ken, you mentioned in the past how much John Byrne has influenced you as a fan in comics. John is largely known for his X-Men work as much as other things. A good chunk of your bibliography is with X-Men, Excalibur, X-Men Gold, Exiles. As an artist, what is it like following in the footsteps of someone like John Byrne, expanding the X-Men legacy?
Well, I mean, that was later in my career, because I worked a long time before I got the X-Men stuff, and I kind of had sort of realized I'm probably not going to get the X-Men stuff, because it's a fool's dream to think, oh, wouldn't that be awesome to draw X-Men or do work on the X-Men books, when you're like, wouldn't that be wicked, but I don't know, 15, 20 years before I got a chance to work on X-Men. But it was simple, because I never told them that was my thing. I never told them that was the book that I really wanted to draw. So once I let it know that, oh yeah, I love to draw X-Men, it was pretty much, off I went. But I'm a big John Byrne. The first issue I ever bought was 134 X-Men. But I have a guy named Jim. There's a guy named Jim out there. I forget it. Grades 7 and 8 together, and I went to his house and we did trading comics, like what you do as a kid. You trade comics, and I traded a comic, and I got this issue number 113, and I was like, what is this? Like who drew this? Like what is this? And I think I was in grade 7, and there was a George Perez cover, John Byrne interior. My random books for all of his X-Men, like that day, so I probably picked up like $2,000 worth of comics. I mean, they're well loved. I mean, don't kid yourself. But I was like, oh, and then I have to go buy them. So then I went to the store, bought 134, and I remember going, this is cool. And then off I went from there. So I mean, it's one of those things where you don't know when it's gonna bite you, but it just bit me. And I met John Byrne. I never told him that I was a professional.
Oh wow!
I just met him. We were in Pittsburgh. He had corn chips in his beard. I'll never forget that. And he was just holding court and talking. Everyone just he was around his table, and I walked up to him and I said, I really love your work. And he said, thank you very much. Shook my hand, and I left, and that was it. I didn't tell the people in line who I was. It just didn't make a difference because it wouldn't change my journey any of that. I don't want to. Oh, I'm Ken Lashley, I draw this book or that book. Not that it would mean anything to him anyway. Well, who cares, right? But I just thought it was important just to sort of say, to honor and say, I appreciate the work and I appreciate the things how it influenced me. It's not about my ego and me telling you anything about me, right? So,
Ken, you did start out on an X book. During your run on Excalibur, you worked with some pretty distinguished writers early on in their careers.
Warren Ellis is amazing. I mean, it's great to work with somebody of that caliber. It's super genius storyteller, and gives you so much to work with. There's, it's one of those people that you go, wow, that's amazing to work with someone like that. And so, I've worked with a couple of really good writers in my, I work with lots of really good people. Warren Ellis being the top there, and so I mean, to me, it's I'm very fortunate, to get to work with some really talented people. So, and in the end, when you started thinking about, they taught me how to be a storyteller. From like there's a certain visual language that they instill when you look at it, and they give you lots of stuff to work with. But I also like to be able to do my own thing. So even though as I get older now, I read some of this stuff and I go, this would be better with this shot. Like I did all kinds of shots that weren't in the script, but just like all kinds of shots. And the, iconic, visual noise, that people go, oh, I love that shot. And I go, you don't say anything when you go, oh, thank you, appreciate it. But you go, I did that shot. Like it was even in the script, right? But you do that. Even when I work with, Gail Simone's, you do your own thing, have your own, I don't think I've ever, and I won't work with a writer who doesn't allow me to have my own song, my own voice in there. If I'm going to be a part of the process and my name's going to go in the book, then I need to, put my stamp on it. You know what I mean? So, and most times I never have an issue with that. So they just go, do your thing, Ken. So it's been, working with really good writers. So sort of like how this is what a good script is. And then when you work with those people early in your career, when you get a script that's maybe not as strong, you go, oh, okay. There's more heavy lifting involved in this one. So, but I enjoy those scripts as well. There's a beauty in all of it. There's a beauty in all of it, right? So, even stuff that are really fleshed out, great. Stuff that's not quite fleshed out, there's room for me to do my thing. So.
You developed 10th Muse with legendary writer Marv Wolfman. Tell us what it was like working with Marv Wolfman and developing 10th Muse.
Marv Wolfman is one of my favorite people. Just flat out, right? When I met him a couple times. Met him and he met me and my wife, and he's always so gracious, always so kind. And he wrote one of my favorite issues of all time, which is the Fantastic Four. The Sphinx versus Galactus. So shall the flea be doomed is one of the greatest lines in comics. If I must destroy a flea to claim this world, then so shall the flea be doomed is one of the greatest lines of all time, right? I thought that was, even as a kid, I was like, and Galactus is slapping the Sphinx. and I was like, oh man, and it's drawn by John Byrne. Like John Byrne drew the book. Marv Wolfman wrote it. So he's known for all these, all the great things that we know Marv Wolfman for. But as an artist, I was like, wow, that John Byrne issue, it really kind of in John Byrne, great storytelling. Yeah. So for me, and working with Marv, and Marv was such a sweet guy, and super nice. And, he writes some of the darkest stuff. He wrote some dark stuff. So, and he's super talented. And when you work with someone like as talented and legendary as that, you can't help but, try and bring your A game. I mean, sure, it was a 10th Muse. It wasn't, it is what it is, but it is exciting to work with people of that caliber, so it was exciting.
We're going to keep on the writers for another beat. Because you work with a lot of great writers, Mark Guggenheim, Mark Waid, Tom Taylor, Reggie Hudlin. Which writer throughout your career you feel you have the most chemistry with?
it really comes down to what the book is. Like Mark Guggenheim was X-Men, so it was, you're working with X-Men, you can't, how can you not love that stuff? And then Reggie Hudlin was Black Panther, so it was like, one of my first books I ever bought, was bought for me. Was my mom bought me these books, and sure you would like it, and I opened these books up, and it's this guy named Black Panther fighting the KKK. I have that issue, jungle action, and I was like, what's going on here? I didn't understand the context of what that really meant or what that character was about at that time. So for me, it was learning a lot about the world. I learned a lot about the world from these comic books. But then as I got older, I didn't understand the significance of that issue, and Billy Graham's work, and all these other great artists on those books. But also, but it's a two-pronged medium. Just so people always like to say things like, oh, it's a writer's medium right now. But I mean, if I just did stick figures for the whole issue, how good a writing could it possibly be, right? So like how powerful would these images would it if I just drew stick figures? So it's you can't disrespect how hard it is to do it. If my job takes 6 weeks to draw, it takes 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks to do a good job on a comic book. You can't discredit that or dismiss that piece of work. It's a lot of work. So, and you can always tell good storytellers. I mean, we all pick up books and go, wow, this is great. And, a subpar story, we can make it still look great. But, if it's not a great story, we can fix it a little bit. But if the artwork's not great, good luck. It doesn't matter what you write. It doesn't matter what you write. So, I think that it's very important that people remember that this is a visual medium, and that there's two people involved. And I don't know how many times I have to remind people that it's not a writer's medium. It's a storyteller's medium, regardless of what end of it you're in. But it's much more visual than it is writing. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying it's a two-pronged attack.
Ken, you're not only a prolific comic artist, you have a ton of experience with licensing in the licensing world, with product illustration for several IPs. But going back to comics, because this is where it applies to comics, you along with Benjamin Percy was a part of the first ever crossover between Marvel and a Predator franchise with Predator versus Wolverine. Does that mean anything to you as far as being a part of that first kind of a crossover franchise?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it was great to work on. I love the Predator movies. It was fun to me, and that job was very little storytelling. It was like, they're fighting in the woods. Let's go. I said, all right, let's go. Right? It's like there wasn't a lot of nuance there. It was just a lot of let's go. And I think it was amazing to work on. And there are very few times in your career you get a chance to really cut loose. Usually it's temper, maybe one page of fighting onto the next. This was like pages and pages of fighting. I wish there was more fighting. I only got, because I haven't done that in a long time, but I don't think it was ever, to be honest with you, having that kind of thing. And also it was great I went to MegaCon a few weeks ago, and I bumped into Benjamin Percy. He came up to my table. Never met him before. So I don't even think we even spoke. People don't think that we don't talk very often. Like, artists don't talk because he's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing, so we don't talk very often. So he came up to me and we had a great conversation, and he was very kind in his blessings towards my work and saying very kind things about it. And I was just like, it was nice to talk to somebody. I very love what he wrote as well. I mean, it's like you don't get those kinds of pages and those kinds of things without the good source material. So it works both ways. But he's a smart guy. He was like, listen, man, you did me right. You did me right. And I was like, I appreciate it. But it doesn't start. It starts with something great, and then you hopefully you do it justice, right? So
well, I'll tell you this. I was the one that told Ben that you were there. Man, he said that your pages were the best pages in the Predator vs. Wolverine.
Don't get the other people in trouble.
No disrespect. No, you didn't say it. I said it.
Okay. But it's also okay. I mean, I got the easier pages. I mean, I got the pages where he's fighting in the woods. Like I told you, those guys are drawing like, period pieces and 4 or 5 different characters running from him. But there was a lot of stuff going on. Mine was just like one character versus one character in the woods. Go right. Like it's so much easier to draw. Like I mean, people always say, wow, this guy's such a great artist. He does this. And I go, listen, man, if you told me just to draw, if I was drawing Venom fighting one guy in an environment, it's gonna be good. If you draw the X-Men, like it's like, but that's why there's very few people that can draw group books, because there's 15,000 characters running and fighting other 15,000 characters. It's a lot of work, right? So when you have, so for me, my whole career, I'm a group book guy. So everything I did was group book, group book, group book. So getting a chance to draw, you know, Wolverine by himself in the woods fighting a predator, and predators, it's just like the thought of the predator most of the time. He's just running and he's injured and he's blood. It's like, oh, it was sick. It was super easy. I was banging out those pages. I was doing so much other stuff too, but it was so much easier, and it was refreshing. It was refreshing, you know? And I've heard that a lot, where people say a lot of things about those pages. And I keep trying to tell people, so, well, the other people in the book must get sick of hearing that, but they got the harder pages by far, way harder than my stuff, you know, way easier.
Man, that's nice of you, man. That's nice.
You know what? I would just think of it as, if I was in the other part of the book and someone kept saying, "Oh, this other guy is killing everyone in this book," and I'd be in the book, I'd be, "Yo, whoa, what's that about?" Right? So you always got to be diplomatic, because it's all conjecture. It's all up to, you know, people's thoughts of it. It really has nothing to do with what the work they had to do or I had to do. It's a blessing to be in a book like that. So I feel it as that's kind of them to say, but you know, everyone did their thing. You know, everyone did.
Ken, let's talk about your art process.
Okay.
Obviously, your art style has evolved over the years, and that's in part to you collaborating with several different artists. Today, you ink yourself. When did you start inking yourself, and what brought about that decision?
I was working on I think I was in covers for Superman, and the editor was like, you know, you should try and ink yourself, right? I think it's more like he's just trying to get it so it's just one call, one thing, get it sent back, right? Which is fine. But I really wasn't. Oh, I don't know if it's really my thing. I don't know. So I said, sure, okay, let me try it. And I did a cover and I overdid it. Then I did Suicide Squad covers, and then I did a whole bunch of those. And then from there, then Superman Doom came up, and they asked me if I would do that project, and I was like, okay. All right, I'll try to ink it. And it was the first time, I think that was the first time my work looked like my work, you know, because I try to be polite about it, but you know, when I usually send off my work in the past, it would get inked by somebody, and you kind of go, oh, I wouldn't make that choice, but it is what it is, or I don't know, it just didn't look like me. I shouldn't say anything negative. It just never looked like how my work when it left, how I thought it would look. And even when I inked myself for the first couple of years, it didn't quite look right either. It looked like I was noodling much, and now I'm okay at it, you know. And people would say I'm a pretty good inker, but I wouldn't say I can only ink myself. And a pretty famous artist asked me to ink him, and I said no, I'm not an inker, right? So I ink my own stuff. That's it, right? So I mean, it's only to embellish my work. So I just don't think that it's. How do I try to be polite about this, but trying to tell, inking is a lost art that people think that anybody could just because you can draw, you can pencil, you can just ink. Another thing too, a lot of pencilers or whatever like to take shine from people, you know, like you know, and take on the shine that they didn't earn, right? Like so they'll see a beautiful colored piece and a gorgeous cover and a wicked ink job to fix some of the wonkiness of your stuff, and then people go, oh, this cover is sick. And then you go, yeah. And you pause. And you should say, no. You say, yeah, this guy did a crazy job inking it, and this person did a crazy job coloring it. I appreciate the work they did over my work. Wouldn't that be nice? Right. Like, wouldn't that be just nice to say that, right? But that's how people are. They don't want to give the shine. I got no problems giving shine. I don't color. You know, I don't, you know, and I barely ink, even though people say I'm a decent inker. But to me, it's like you have to be honest.
As an artist, you have a black and white page. Sure. What's your process? How do you get from a blank page to a fully rendered page? What are your steps? What do you do?
I work really differently from most people because I work right on the board itself. I work right on the final board. I do a lot of interesting things, like okay, I lay it out. I just lay it out flat on the board, and then I just get to it, right? And I usually do a very, 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 very loose rough, very loose, because I like the energy of the rough. And sometimes the rough is 10 times better than the final, right? And I think the more times you draw it, the energy disappears. So if you lay it out and you pencil it and it's okay, and then you ink it, okay. It's like every time you go over it, your the vibe is getting a little bit less organic, and it's becoming, much more of a controlled piece as opposed to energy. Like I like to keep energy in my work, so I try to keep as much of it as the original. So that's why the first time I draw it out is the final ink, so that you get to see like, oh, the energy lines. And sometimes I don't even put the lines up together. I let them do what it's gonna do, right? And sometimes you hit these amazing pieces and they go, oh, I've hit it. And sometimes you go, ooh, not so good, right? But you have to let the piece be the piece. I always take a sheet of paper out of the box. I lose what's gonna be here. I think the face will be here. Let's go. And then I just start to draw it in ink. And hopefully, and sometimes at the end of it, it's like, oh, that's sick. Right now I'm doing right beside me, right here. Right here, it's Dr. Doom cover. And it's fun. It's fun, And also this thing is due next week and I'll be done tomorrow. So because I go right to the board. So if I do the board, if I draw on the rough, I do the rough really loosely. Then when I go to ink it, I'm right on the same board. So there are parts of it there are parts of this drawing that are not finished, but I'm already inking it. All right. So people say, how do you do that? I said, well, because it's a foot. I know when I get there, I get there. But I got the face where I want it to be, got the hand where I want it to be, and this is the part that that's the cover. But as long as I get these three things right, then the rest of it will be good. I'll figure it out. And when in doubt, silhouette it out.
Speaking of page, let's talk about your Facebook Ledkilla page. That's a great community, football, comics, pop-up sales. What are your thoughts about the Ledkilla community?
It's probably the most natural thing I got going on. Like to me, it feels like I'm talking to a bunch of, right? We bumped into the comic convention. We're just talking smack. Yeah, I mean, even today I talked about Invincible. Right? I say, hey, who's watching Invincible? Who's watching that? And I feel so blessed that I didn't read the books. Right? I didn't read the books at that time, so I'm just enjoying the show. It's one of the first cartoons I've watched where I don't know what's happening until I watch it. But those are the things you talk about, right? Like, it's not all about business. It's not always about what I'm working on. It's about who likes this, who's watching this, who's watching Daredevil, who's doing this. I mean, they're like friends and family and community. And they also have deals. I have deals in there that I wouldn't have anywhere else. But to me, it's sort of like you should be rewarded for coming to a place every day. So that's how it is. It's fun.
Ken, we're on our very last question. Is there something that we haven't talked about that you want the fans to know about? Any upcoming projects? Any upcoming appearances?
I'm doing. I've signed on to do 2 horror books that people might be shocked to deal with. The first one is with Ninth Circle. I'm working with on something else. I won't tell you what it is. We worked together in Suicide Squad. Now we're working on a book together. It's going to be published through Image. And I have another book that I signed on for, and it's a little Ghost Machine action going on there, and we'll see how that goes. Sir. And so, I'm still doing covers for Marvel and covers for DC. But it's kind of cool. I won't tell you any more than that. I did my paperwork and did all that stuff already, so it's all good. But things are going to be very different for the next couple years because traveling, I may not travel as much. We'll see how it goes, right? Let's see how it goes. I'm excited about doing this kind of work. You work with the Ghost Machine people. It's all writers, all good stuff. So to start off with, good source material and.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm looking forward to the Ghost Machine stuff. Yeah, they made that announcement, a couple weeks back, I believe, and I'm so excited because like all my favorite people is in under one banner for a little bit, So I'm happy about that. So, Kid, thank you so much for joining us, man. This is always a treat having you with us. Just know you always have a home here on the Sig Slayers station, my man.
Appreciate that, man. I do a lot of drawing for you guys. I do one of my 6x8 drawings with you guys. If you want to do that, I can do that live. You do a little broadcast. It only takes me about 20 minutes, so
let's do that. So yeah,
I'm doing one right now. What am I doing right now? Oh,
yeah.
Let's see what. So this is my today's.
Ooh.
There we go.
And because I just watched the episode.
Invincible.
That's right. And then I'll finish this one probably later. If we can figure that one out.
Is that
It's a cat.
A little battle beast.
Is that battle beast? There we go.
Yep. Yeah.
I love
that's
it,
what
man.
I'm doing. I watch it. Oh, that's kind of cool, and then I'll doodle. That's how it works.
Man, thank you so much, Ken.
Anytime.
Well, that's all for our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit the like button. This is Sig Slayers. I'm Mike, speaking for Mark and Ken Lashley. We are out. Peace.
Sig Slayers.